multiplying decimals. This topic might be a little confusing at first, but if we understand regular multiplication, we're just adding a couple decimal places in there. Here is the secret to multiplying decimals. So first, we are going to review just multiplication in general. So when we have several digits, how do we actually do that? So I have a simple problem, 14 times 2. You'll notice that I did go back to the multiplication x just for this type of problem. As you know, we have moved from the x multiplication symbol to the dot or parentheses. But for vertical multiplication, we still use the x. So what we're going to do is we take the 2 and we multiply it times the 4 and we get 8. And then we do 2 times 1 and we get 2. So 2 times 14 is 28. So now we're going to move over to this problem. Looks kind of similar, but I added a decimal point. So instead of it being 14 times 2, it's 1 4/10 times 2. I am going to do the same multiplication. First, pretend that the decimal point is not even there. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 1 is 2. Now here's the next step. We count how many digits are after the decimal point in both of these numbers. So here we have 1 place. We don't have any here. So we have a total of 1 place, and we are going to move the decimal place that many places over in our answer. So we are going to move it to here. So we have 1 place here, 1 place here. Our answer is 2 8/10. So we see how there's a difference between here. There are no decimal places, that are no digits after a decimal here. So it's 28. 1 decimal place means we move it the same amount. Let's try another one. 3 24/100 times 3. First, we just do the multiplication as though the decimal weren't even there. 3 times 4 is 12. So we put the 2, carry the 1. 3 times 2 is 7. 3 times 2 is 6. We add the 1, that makes it 7. 3 times 3 is 9. Now we deal with our decimals. We see that we have a decimal point here. We have 1, 2 decimal places and none here. So we have a total of 2. We go 1, 2, and we put our decimal point there. So our answer is 9 72/100. Let's do a fourth example. This one gets a little bit more complicated, kind of. Okay. So we have 43 17/100 times 1 5/10. You're like, oh no. Let's leave out the decimals for now and do the multiplication. So we have 5 times 7 is 35. Put the 5 and we carry the 3. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. 5 times 3 is 15. You put down the 5, carry the 1. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1, 21. Now remember, when we have multiple digits on the bottom, we have to put our placeholder 0. We're already done with the 5. Now we've moved on to the 1. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 4 is 4. Now we can do our adding. Good thing we put that placeholder there so we know exactly how things line up. 5 plus 0 is 5. 8 plus 7 is 15. I'm going to carry the 1. 1 plus 5 plus 1, 7. 1 plus 3 is 4. 2 plus 4 is 6. Are we done? Nope. We have to count the decimal place, the places after the decimal in both numbers. So here, 1, 2, we have 2 places. Here, we have 1. So we have to move a total of 3 decimal places in our answer. 1, 2, 3. So our final answer, 64 and 755 thousandths. And finally, we will be evaluating algebraic expressions for a certain value for our variable. Here we have evaluate 3x for x equals 4 and 47 thousandths. So what, if we remember, 3x is short for 3 times x. So we are going to write 3x, and now we're going to substitute this in. 3 times 4 and 47 thousandths. I chose to write this using parentheses. You could also write it with the multiplication dot. Sometimes it gets a little confusing if you write a multiplication dot and a decimal. If you do this, you just have to be very clear that your multiplication dot is in the center and your decimal is way down at the bottom. That's why I write parentheses, but you can do whichever. But we don't want to use that x anymore when we do this, because otherwise it gets super confusing. So now we are down to 3 times this number. We are going to write it vertically. I always like to write the longer number on top. So now, since I'm doing it that way, I just said don't use the x anymore. But when I said we write them vertically, we can put the multiplication or just leave it out. You know that you're multiplying, right? Okay. So now we do 3 times 7 is 21. Carry the 2. 3 times 4 is 12 plus 2, which is 14. Carry the 1. 3 times 0 is 0. Add the 1. 3 times 4 is 12. Are we done? No, we're not. We need to count the decimal places. We have 1, 2, 3 in that number, and none on this number. So we are going to go 3. 1, 2, 3, and put the decimal point. 12 and 141 thousandths. And that is how you multiply decimals.